Hey guys, what's up? It's Sierra the Festive Bohemian, and today I've got a lot of houseplant chores to do. On my list of chores is a lot of repotting. Yeah, I'm going to be taking a lot of plants out of Leca and into soil again. Yes, and the reason why in just a moment, I'm really trying to prep my plants for the spring so they're ready to grow. And I actually just got a beneficial predatory bug that I'm going to unleash into my houseplant collection, and I'm not sure how it's gonna go. I'm not sure if I'm going to love them or hate them, because I've never done that before. But recently I've, been doing a lot more deep diving into what I use on my plants, because most what I do right now is just what I heard someone say, and I'm like, okay, and then I start doing it and I'm like, yeah, that works. But like, I've noticed, for instance, neem oil hasn't been quite as effective for me as it used to be, and upon further research, which if you're not already following Gardening in Canada, because I just love the way she explains things, and the reason I got these bugs is because she actually recommended them. So let's just get into it and let's do some chores. Let's go. So the reason I am making the switch from Leca back to soil is because there's a few reasons. The biggest reason of all is really just the fact that I keep my plants outside. And what I've noticed is that there's a lot of dirt that gets pushed up from my dog, snacks that runs around in the backyard here. Like, you can't see outside of this room, but there's just dirt. It's not grass. So a lot of dirt ends up getting into my pots. If I'm not consistently flushing my plants out, then I have issues. I've noticed a lot of deformed growth. I've noticed more slow growth. I've noticed also that I've been more of an underwater now, so which is also probably adding to the growth. The slow growth and the deformed growth is also just the fact that I've been underwatering my plants now that I have more. Leca was really great for me when I was overwatering my plants, because it was a much more forgiving. If you overwatered, you can take the plant out of the Leca and problem solved, where in soil it's a little bit more difficult to notice that root rot is happening. But now I've kind of come to understand my plant's roots a little bit better, what plants like to be more wet, what plants like to be more dry. Snacks, shh, no, drop it. He just had a piece of Leca in his mouth. Anywho, what I'm trying to say is, now that I understand my plants a little bit better, I just feel now that soil is just going to be easier for me than Leca. I feel like, if I had it in a terrarium, if you've got them in some kind of enclosed case, something where the environment is more controlled, I feel like it's a bit easier to maintain. But out in this open, sunroom here, it's not ideal. I feel like Leca was a part of my journey to where I am now, but I feel like soil is where I'm going from here on out, and that's just me being honest. So a lot of plants moving back to soil today, and whatever else I find that needs to get done along the way. I probably won't unleash these today, but here are my predatory mites that I'm going to unleash shortly. Not in this video, but make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I'll be going over my experience with these in another video. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, greatly appreciate it. So there are a few reasons that you may want to repot a plant. One, you just got a new plant and you want to make sure there's no plug, which actually kind of looks like some fabric wrapped around the roots of your plant. And this is actually supposed to degrade over time, but often it does not. And it can restrict our plants from growing and eventually suffocates them. And you have no idea that this is going on until you take your plant out and realize that this killed your plant. So it's a good idea to check. Sometimes you bring in a plant and the soil just doesn't look good, or I'm just not a fan of it. I'll repot it and refresh the soil with some soil that I like more. Maybe you're at a loss for why your plant isn't growing or it looks sad, and just taking the plant out and looking at the roots can be very insightful, you know, to see maybe you got root rot going on, maybe you got root mealybugs, which is a thing. So it's a good idea to just check out the roots if your plant isn't doing what it usually does or looks sadder than normal. If you notice that the roots are growing out of the bottom of the pot, or if you find yourself watering a plant more often than normal, that may be a sign that it is time to go up a pot. And you can just go up 1 or 2 sizes max. If you put a plant in a outrageously large pot, you may think that it's going to grow into that pot. But what happens a lot of the times is that you get root rot because the soil doesn't dry out properly. I'm repotting mine in spring now because, the weather is warming up, more light is coming into my plants, therefore they are ready to grow, and I'm ready for them to grow. But you can repot your plants any time of the year. I would only say that, if winter is right around the corner and light is about to decrease significantly to your plants, there's really no point in repotting your plant. It may do more harm and good unless that plant is ready to be repotted for one of the reasons I mentioned above, or another reason that I didn't mention. But don't be afraid. Don't, think you can't repot a plant in the winter. It's just, if your plant doesn't need it, it's probably best not to. Lastly, if the water isn't draining properly when you go to water your plant, you notice the water either sits on top of the soil and drains very slowly. Something's prohibiting the water from being absorbed. If you notice that the water drains specifically on just one side of the plant, that could be a sign that you aren't fully saturating the water when watering and only part of the plant is getting wet. So those are reasons. I mean, there are definitely more reasons out there, but there are a few. I'm going to show you my mixes. I've been having a lot of fun creating different mixes that I feel like are going to make my plants very happy. And yeah, let's go check them out. So basically, this is my ferns, begonia plants that like the roots a little bit wetter, and it's still really well draining. It's got sphagnum, it's got a little bit of leca for the fun of it, it's got coconut husk, and it's got soil, worm castings. It's gonna retain moisture pretty well, but not too well. Anything that's too dense, I just have a hard time with. I prefer a chunkier soil for everything, and that may mean I have to water my ferns a little bit more, but I'm okay with that. This looks like my Hoya mix, and it has some coconut husk, and it has some perlite, it has some soil, but it's going to drain much faster than the fern mix. Every time I go to like a Hoya grower, I notice this is kind of the texture of the mix they use, so I was trying to embody that. It makes sense to me because they're epiphytes, they like growing on trees. It would make sense that they would like more of a that kind of soil. Yeah, they like a little bit more air to their roots. All right. Now, this is my aeroid mix, which clearly has the biggest bin. So I'll use this for my philodendrons, my monsteras, rhaphidophora, pothos. It's got tree bark in it. It's got leca. It's got some perlite. I just got more perlite, so I may or may not add more in here. It's got a little bit of sphagnum. It's like, I'm not saying this is like the perfect recipe. Oh, I also put charcoal in all of these bins as well, which is supposed to help with removing toxins, and it also, you know, helps aerate the soil. Aeroids are typically climbers, right? So they're climbing on trees, so I got a little bark in there, like a little bit more oxygen to their roots as well. Yeah, you just got to think about your plant, think about how you water it, that kind of environment that you think your plant will love, and then do it. Do it. And experiment. All right. Oh, and then I also have, see guys, this is what I'm talking about. Like, all that dirt, that's a lot of dirt. And that would be in my plants. Leca, I'm talking about leca again. But here we go. I got a little bin of pond, DIY pond though. I just mixed together zeolite, pumice, and there's actually little baby lecas in there as well. Yeah, gotta rinse that off before you use it though, because that is dusty. Yeah, I have a few plants in it, but not a lot. I think I'm going to use it inside the house for my indoor plants, because that way, you know, you can put them in a glass or whatever. They don't get the furniture wet. It just makes more sense.